Part 13. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 121. Song Erlang was not at Zai Academy, but at Guankei Academy. He handed the article to his master. "Sir, there are more than 10 days left for the imperial examination. Do you have any suggestions?" The master handed a set of 4 books and 5 classics to Song Erlang. "These are the key points I made based on the provincial examinations in previous years. You can take a look when you go back. Students will read it carefully." Song Erlang carefully put away the book. "The regent wants to build water conservancy this year. I'm afraid the test questions will be related to this. Please write more articles about water conservancy construction in case of emergency." The master was very optimistic about Song Erlang, patted him on the shoulder, and said sincerely, "With your level, if you study hard during this period, you will definitely pass the exam." Song Erlang was in high spirits, bid farewell to his master and left the academy. Song Erlang, Fan Yushin came out from the corner, hid his injured hand in his sleeves, and forced a stiff smile. "Are you planning to return to Xinghua village now?" "What's the matter with you?" Song Erlang looked down on Sang Yushin very much. It didn't matter that his family was poor. He was the same as his father, who was a gambler. He wanted to die in a gambling house and had no ambition at all. Song Erlang looked arrogant, and his eyes were full of the undisguised contempt of Erida. Fan Yushin clenched his fingers. What's so great about Song Erlang? Except for being able to read, he is useless. It's not that he cheated his friend, but that Song Erlang didn't regard him as a friend. "Erlang, do me a favor." Fan Yushin grabbed Song Erlang's sleeve, pulled him aside and said, "I asked a fortune teller to do some calculations today. He said that those whose zodiac signs are Taurus can bring me wealth. Please accompany me. I'll take a bet, and if I win, we'll split the money." Song Erlang pulled back his sleeve. "What if you lose?" "It's impossible to lose. The fortune teller is very effective. There was a man in front of me who owed hundreds of taels of silver to the gambling house. I asked the fortune teller to calculate it. He wore a fortune teller. Not only did he pay off the money he owed to the gambling house, but he also had 2 taels left. 100 taels of silver." Song Erlang was surprised. "So many? If I win 100 taels, I can give you 50 taels, and you will have enough money to go to Fukan to take the exam." Fan Yushin said seductively, "You just go with me and stand by my side." "I don't want you bet." Song Erlang was not a determined person to begin with. When he heard Fan Yushin's hypothesis, he was already moved. If he wins, he gets money for free. If he loses, he doesn't have to pay. Song Erlang's eyes moved. When Fan Yushin saw him, he grinned, hooked his neck and walked to the gambling house. "I beg you, my brother has become rich, and I will never forget your kindness." Only this time Song Erlang reluctantly relented. The 2 of them arrived at the gambling house. Brother Niu stood guard at the door, his eyes fixed on Song Erlang's face for a moment, then he turned to Fan Yushin and smiled meaningfully. "Okay, you boy." Fan Yushin said sarcastically, "Brother Niu, let me translate the book." Brother Niu raised his chin inward. "Go." Song Erlang felt very uneasy. Brother Niu's look gave him an indescribable feeling. He hesitated. "Fan Yushin." "Erlang, come in quickly." Fan Yushin excitedly dragged Song Erlang into the crowd, took out a tael of silver and stuffed it into Song Erlang's hand. "You help me bet, if I lose, it's mine." Song Erlang looked at the smoky and noisy gambling house and felt very uncomfortable. Holding a tael of silver in his hand, he hesitated to make a move. "Erlang, hurry up, Fan Yushin urged Song Erlang anxiously. Seeing him staring at the gaming table with a dull expression, he pushed him hard. Song Erlang's center of gravity was unsteady, and he lay on the gaming table with his hand holding the silver on the small side. He was confused and was about to pick up the money in a hurry. What are you doing? Fang Yushan grabbed Song Erlang. Song Erlang wanted to defend. Buy the deal and leave, the dealer yelled. Song Erlang's mind was confused as he watched the dealer roll the dice. His eyes followed the dealer's hand, his heart hung in his throat, and his breath was held. Open, the banker opened the cup. The two people looked at each other intently. Little, the dealer shouted at the top of his lungs. Xiao! Xiao! It's Xiao. Fang Yushan's face turned red with excitement. He grabbed Song Erlang's arm and shook it desperately. I'm not lying. The fortune teller is not lying. Song Erlang stared blankly at the gambling table, a little unable to recover. He looked at his hand. Could it really bring good luck to Fang Yushan? Fang Yushan took the money and gave it all to Song Erlang. Keep going. This time Song Erlang didn't hesitate and placed all his money on the big team. The dealer opens the cup. Big. It's big. Fang Yushan's eyes turned red with excitement. The last worry in Song Erlang's heart disappeared, and he took the initiative to place a bet without Fang Yushan's reminder. In just a quarter of an hour, Fang Yushan won more than 200 taels of silver. Fang Yushan directly gave him 100 taels of silver. Erlang, you are so lucky, do you want to get some yourself? Song Erlang looked at the handful of broken silver in his hand. It was heavy. He had never owned so much silver in his life. He didn't pay any capital and got 100 taels. Some people will never earn so much money in their entire lives. Let's give it a try. If you lose, just stop in time. Anyway, the money is all for nothing. Fang Yushan persuaded Song Erlang, and looked at Brother Niu. I'm going to play Pai Gao. As soon as Fang Yushan left, Song Erlang tentatively placed a tael of silver. After testing the waters 3 times in a row, Song Erlang won every time. Song Erlang instantly drifted away. The bets got bigger and bigger, and he won 9 times out of 10. The dealer narrowed his eyes. Young gentleman, you are in good luck today. Why don't we bet on life and death? He tapped the dice cup with his fingers. Bet all your money, and if you win, I will compensate you 10 times. Song Erlang hesitated. The person on the side persuaded, Xiao Lang Jun, just take a gamble. Anyway, you will earn whatever you lose, not your own capital. If you win, you have hundreds of taels here. How much can it be doubled 10 times? 1,000 taels. Tisk, I have the luck to win 9 out of 10 bets, so I'll bet with him. Yes, Mr. Xiaolang, give it a try. Someone used to bet on life and death and made more than 10,000 taels of silver, and moved his family to the capital. Not only did he buy a house, but he also opened a shop for business. Now he is living a prosperous life. Song Erlang felt relieved, but if he lost, all the hundreds of taels of silver he had received would be lost, and he would not be able to make a penny. Okay, if you don't want to bet, then withdraw and make way for others. The dealer drove away impatiently. I bet. Song Erlang was cruel and pushed out all the money. If you lose, you lose. Anyway, these are all earned. What if I win? He completely turned over. I'll buy the big one. Song Erlang retracted his hand and his whole body tensed up. The dealer rolled the dice, pulled his sleeves up to his arms, held the cup with both hands, and slowly opened it. The author has something to say. Good night, babies, see you tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 122. The game of life and death is the biggest attraction of the casino, especially since the gambling room has been doubled 10 times, which has already attracted many people. The whole place was silent, staring at the cup with bated breath. Big. Song Erlang muttered words, his heart beating rapidly, his eyes fixed on the slowly opened cup, and cold sweat broke out on his nervous back. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed on the dice, and the blood on his face was gone. Xiao, it's Xiao. Small. Why is it small? Song Erlang's ears were ringing, the noisy sounds around him faded away, and his eyes were staring straight at the dice. No matter how you look at it, it's still small, and all the hundreds of taels of silver were gone in one go. A surge of blood surged up, and I felt like the world was spinning. Young gentleman, you are unlucky this time. Do you want another one? The banker took all the money with a smile. Betting means you lose and you win. If you miss by chance this time, maybe you will win one win. You won 9 out of 10 times before. If you lose this time, you will win 9 times in the future. The dealer grabbed a tael of silver and threw it in front of Song Erlang. Let's try your luck and play a small one. You are lucky. If you still have the courage to bet on life and death, then try it again. Song Erlang's heart was bleeding with pain. He felt that what the banker said made sense. After playing so many games, he rarely lost. Only lost once out of 10 times. If you lose once now, will you win the next few times? Yes, he can try his luck first. If he wins, he'll get another big one. Song Erlang picked up the silver and held it tightly in his hand, his palms aching from the silver. He gritted his teeth and threw it on the gambling table, and the money rolled to the big table. Buy big. Song Erlang made a splash. The dealer rolled the dice and opened the cup. Big. Song Erlang's tense nerves relaxed and he took a big breath. A relaxed smile appeared on his face. I won. The people on the side helped Song Erlang get the money and joked, little Lang Jun is really lucky tonight. He loses once every time and wins 7 or 8 times in a row. It seems that next time it will be your home court. Others followed suit and shouted, yes, the dealer promised such a big odds. Could it be that he has seen the pattern of Xiao Lang Jun's luck? Dealer, do you dare to bet on life and death with Mr. Xiao Lang again? That's right. I cheated a young man earlier, do you dare to double it 20 times? The dealer frowned and waved his hand, don't talk nonsense. If you don't speak, no one will treat you as dumb. 10 times is the highest odds, how can there be 20 times? Nonsense, didn't someone double it 20 times before? Won tens of thousands of taels of silver? Are you afraid of the young man? Everyone refused to give up. The dealer glanced at Song Erlang, as if he was really afraid of his good luck and refused to let go of his life and death bet. Xiao Lang Jun has lost all his money, only 3 or 4 taels of silver. If the odds are 20 times, bet at least 100 taels of silver. He turned to Song Erlang and said, go somewhere else to play. Song Erlang heard that someone else had won tens of thousands of taels, and Fang Yushan had said before that that person took the money to buy a house and shop in the capital, and became a wealthy businessman. He was afraid of poverty, thinking about his good luck, and his heart was ready to move. But thinking that the minimum bet was 100 taels of silver, he couldn't help but want to back down. Song Erlang turned to look for Fang Yushan to make up his mind, and saw Fang Yushan walking dejectedly. His heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Fang Yushan said dejectedly, Erlang, as soon as you leave my side, I will lose everything. Song Erlang's expression changed. Fang Yushan couldn't lend him 100 taels of silver, but he proved that he could indeed bring good luck to Fang Yushan. Thinking that 100 taels could be turned into 2,000 taels of silver immediately, I was really unwilling to give up. Fang Yushan asked, did you win? Song Erlang told Fang Yushan what had just happened, clenched his fist and said, I should have been cautious before. I should have lost a small amount before betting on life and death. In this way, I still have the capital, and I don't feel bad if I lose. Fang Yushan chuckled and slapped Song Erlang on the shoulder, what are you afraid of? You are so lucky. Based on my previous experience, you will definitely win. 20 times, a full 2,000 taels, lets you have to strike while the iron is hot and borrow 100 taels of silver from the gambling house. If you lose, the worst case scenario is that you can borrow another 1 tael of silver from the gambling house. We can play smaller and win back the lost 100 taels of silver to pay off the gambling house. That's it. Others followed suit. Song Erlang was not willing to give in. Everyone coaxed him, but he gritted his teeth and took the gamble. I'll try again. As soon as Song Erlang opened his mouth, Fang Yushan excitedly called Brother Niu, "Quickly, get 100 taels of silver for my brother." Brother Niu sneered, "100 taels, can you still afford it?" Fang Yushan was not happy anymore and shouted back, "My brother is lucky, he can pay back the money in less than a quarter of an hour. Stop talking nonsense, why don't you hurry up and get the money?" Brother Niu's face darkened, and he asked Song Erlang coldly, "Are you sure you want to borrow it?" "Want?" The sweetness he tasted before made Song Erlang swell. According to the previous rules, if he loses once, he will have to win at least 3 or 4 times in a row before losing again. Brother Niu took out a 100 tael silver note and slapped it on the gambling table in front of Song Erlang. Song Erlang was still very cautious and tried his luck again, and he still won. He took a deep breath and put all the 100 taels of silver on the small side, but he still didn't take his hands back. "Buy it and leave," the dealer said loudly. "Are you sure you want to buy the small one?" Song Erlang nodded, cold sweat broke out on his back, and he held his breath and stared at the gaming table. The dealer shook the dice faster and faster, making Song Erlang dazzled and dizzy. He put his hands on the gaming table, and the clothes on his back were soaked with cold sweat. "Open!" The dealer shouted loudly and opened the dice violently. The gambling house was silent. All the light seemed to be concentrated on the small cup. 246, big. The dealer broke the silence. Lost, he lost. Song Erlang thought of the 100 taels of silver he owed. Bang! Song Erlang fell to the ground and fainted. "Erlang, Erlang." Fang Yushan shook Song Erlang in panic and pinched him hard. Song Erlang slowly woke up. "You scared me to death. If anything happens, your mother will kill me." Fang Yushan's happy expression froze for a moment, and he said in a solemn tone, "You borrowed 100 taels of profit, and it will double in 1 day. If you don't pay by the deadline, they will chop off your hand." We. Song Erlang's face turned pale, and he grabbed Fang Yushan's hand in fear. "Let's borrow some more money. I can bring you good luck. Let's work together to win back all the money we lost." "Erlang." Song Erlang didn't wait for Fang Yushan's persuasion and went directly to Brother Niu to borrow money. But his luck seemed to have run out, and he only won once after losing 9 times. Song Erlang was so angry at the loss that he borrowed a total of 500 taels of silver. He wanted to borrow more, but Brother Niu kicked him out. "Song Erlang, I'll give you 3 days to pay off your debt. If you still can't pay, I'll chop off your hand." Brother Niu threatened fiercely, "Without your hand, I want to see how you take the imperial examination." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 123. Brother Niu, please give me a few more days. I will return the money to you after I finish the imperial examination. Song Erlang lay on the ground like a lost dog. Hearing the words, he jumped up and said in a trembling voice, his eyes full of fear, "I'm just a poor scholar. Even if you kill me, I won't be able to get out 500 taels of silver in 3 days. That's your business." Brother Niu kicked Song Erlang to the ground. "I don't care whether you sell your life, your house, your land, or your parents. Just pay back the money." Song Erlang covered his chest with severe pain and looked at the direction Brother Niu left with a gloomy face. He felt that all the strength in his body had been taken away and he was lying on the ground like a puddle of mud. Fan Yushin couldn't help but feel proud when he saw him like this. Seeing how Song Erlang had fallen into this fate, what right did he have to look down on him? He doesn't have to pay back the money he owes to the gambling house, and Brother Niu will give him an additional 5 taels of silver as a favor. Fan Yushin pretended to help Song Erlang up. Don't be discouraged. Isn't your cousin the princess? These 500 taels of silver are just drizzle to you. If she refuses to help, you can sell the house. No, the house can't be sold. If I sell the house, my father will beat me to death. Song Erlang was too proud to sell his property, so he pinned his hopes on taking the imperial examination. As long as he is admitted to the Juran examination, there will naturally be wealthy businessmen willing to donate money to support him, and he will be able to repay the 500 taels of silver. Then what should we do? Brother Niu always means what he says. They don't blink even if they kill someone. Fan Yushin's big eyes rolled around and he came up with a bad idea. Why don't you do this? Your widowed sister-in-law is a burden, so just put her, sell it and pay back some money first, and then pay back the rest after the provincial examination. As long as Brother Niu can get the money, he will be easy to talk to and will definitely be accommodating. Song Erlang wanted to refuse. Fan Yushin continued to persuade, if you tell others that your widowed sister-in-law couldn't stand the torture and ran away, no one will doubt it. Song Erlang fell into deep thought, said nothing, and gradually regained his composure. He still has a way out. Song Erlang got up from the ground, patted the dust off his body, and walked towards Xinghua village like a zombie. Fan Yushin didn't get the correct answer and chased after him. Erlang, ah. Song Erlang punched Fan Yushin in the eye. His eyes were sinister, and he gritted his teeth and said, Fan Yushin, it's best not for you to set up a trap and dig a hole to make me jump out. Otherwise, even if I die, I will drag you to hell. Fan Yushin was shocked and froze in place. Song Erlang's fists clenched loudly, and Fan Yushin really had something in his heart. He will find out who wants to harm him. Back at Song's house, Song Erlang saw Mrs. Hu chopping pigweed in the yard. The sun shone on her pale and thin face, and she felt a bit beautiful in a daze. Mrs. Zhang came out of the kitchen and saw Song Erlang staring at Mr. Hu, and her face instantly turned gloomy. This bitch actually seduced her son. I couldn't help but wonder if Song Erlang's previous plea for Mrs. Hu was because he was seduced by Mrs. Hu. Mother Song Erlang called Zhang into the room and said to her, I will take the provincial examination soon, and the master said that I will definitely pass the examination. We can move our family to the capital and wait for the spring festival next year. I have calculated it. Let's face it, our family is short of financial resources, so it's better to sell the Hu family to get some money and go to Beijing. When I pass the Jinshi exam, I'll marry a lady from an official family and let her serve you. Zhang was cruel, but he had never thought of selling his daughter-in-law, and was shocked by Song Erlang's words. She subconsciously refused, no. If people find out about this, our family's backbone will be broken. Song Erlang hesitated and said, when my son saw Mrs. Hu, he didn't want to study. Mother, I can marry a wife at this age. Jiang's expression changed drastically, and he gritted his teeth and said, did this bitch really seduce you? Song Erlang didn't speak. Zhang took it as acquiescence and was so angry that she wanted to chop Hu with a knife. This bitch is just a horny female cat. She can't live without a man, so I will help her, Zhang said fiercely, sell. I will take her to the brothel and sell her tonight. Gu family. Gu Beizu was sitting in the yard, and Su Wan was braiding her hair with a wooden comb. Sister-in-law, I came back from town today and saw Aunt Hu cutting pigweed. She was so pitiful. She had a hole in her head and she had to work. I helped her pull out the pigweed and heard her stomach growling. She's a pancake. Gu Beizu stared at the shadow on the ground and couldn't help but find a way to chat with Su Wan. Su Wan paused and praised, Zuzu is awesome. Gu Beizu smiled sweetly. Suwon twisted her braid into a bud, tied a bow with a pink ribbon, put on 2 beaded flowers, arranged the soft hair on her forehead, and raised Gu Beizu's pointed chin. "My third sister is so beautiful." Gu Beizu blushed and wiggled her butt towards Suwon shyly, wanting to hug her and act coquettishly. "Sister-in-law is the most beautiful." Gu Jingyun pinched Gu Beizu's cheek. "You are dark and ugly." Gu Beizu said angrily, "You are just jealous that my sister-in-law likes me the most." "No," Gu Jingyun made a face at her, "sister-in-law likes eldest brother the most." "Gu Jingyun." Gu Beizu became angry and chased Gu Jingyun to fight. Suwon saw Gu Jingyun accidentally knocking off the flower beads on Gu Beizu's head. When Gu Beizu picked it up, it seemed that she had broken it. Her eyes were red and she seemed to be crying next moment. Gu Jingyun hurriedly rolled up his sleeves to wipe Gu Beizu's tears, and coaxed her not to cry in a low voice. "My sister-in-law gave this to me. If you don't fix it, I'll treat you like a puppy." Gu Beizu put the pearl flower in Gu Jingyun's hand, turned around and ran back into the house. Gu Jingyun was extremely distressed, his eyebrows twisted into caterpillar shapes. Suwon walked over and said, "I have a pair of similar pearl flowers in my room. You can use them to coax Zuzu." "Sister-in-law, no need, I can fix it." Gu Jingyun ran away. Suwon couldn't help laughing, but she felt that Gu Jingyun was quite responsible. She looked in the direction of the Song family with worry on her face. One day had passed and she didn't know how Chi Guang's affairs were going. If there is no news today, she will ask about the situation tomorrow. At night, just as Suwon lay down, a stone smashed in through the window and made a sound as it fell to the ground. Suwon immediately sat up, lit the oil lamp, and saw a paper ball wrapped with stones on the ground. She picked it up and unfolded the ball of paper. There was a line of words written on it. "Miss, the matter has been settled, how should Mrs. Who arrange it?" Suwon's heart dropped as she planned where Who would go. If she stayed with him and let Zhang know about it, she would definitely know that it was her who was responsible, and she would definitely come back with crazy revenge. The safest way is to avoid future troubles forever. Suwon wrote back a letter to Chi Guang and continued to dig holes to bury the Song family. Bang, bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. Moun's voice came from outside. "Ms. Gu, I found the bracelet. The author has something to say. Good night, babies, see you tomorrow, okay?" The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 124. Suwon immediately opened the door, and Moun stood at the door, covered in dust. "Come in and talk." Suwon entered the room first. Moun did not come in, but stood aside. Suwon looked around and saw a petite and thin girl standing timidly at the door. Her clothes were ragged and her body was dark and dirty. The night was dark, the light seemed very dim, and she almost blended into the night. Recognizing her at a glance, this little girl was the person she had rescued on the road. "What is this?" Suwon looked at Moun doubtfully. The little girl was very defensive about her and was unwilling to go with her. Suwon was inevitably surprised when he suddenly appeared here. Juji was very nervous, his fingers clenching his sleeves tightly, and he was typing a few words when he came. At the moment when he was facing Suwon, he couldn't remember a single word. She used her wits and threatened Moun to bring her to see Suwon before she was willing to hand over the bracelet. Perhaps it was because Suwon had saved her that Moun hesitated for a moment and took her to find Suwon. Juji was afraid that Moun would tell him about her threatening him with the bracelet. Suwon hated her because of this and refused to tell her brother's whereabouts. "Ms. Gu," she picked up the bracelet. Moun saw Juji digging his index finger with his thumb uneasily. His misty eyes were glistening with water, as if he was about to shed tears at the next moment. Whispered, "She wants to hand it over to you." Jug turned to look at Moun in surprise. unable to believe that Moun would speak for her. Judging from Jug's reaction, Suwon knew that Moun was not telling the truth. Come in. Suwon poured water for the two of them and asked Jug, the bracelet is in your hand? It is very important to me. Give it to me and I will thank you very much. Jug's fingers holding the teacup tightened a little, and he shook his head desperately, and said anxiously, I don't want to thank you again, little sister, can you tell me who gave you the bracelet? Suwon's eyebrows jumped, and her sharp eyes were fixed on Ju-ji's face. She had been walking with Moun these past few days, and she still hadn't washed her face clean. It was as if she had smeared her face with ash from the bottom of a pot, and her face could not be seen. Facial features. Suddenly having a strong premonition, she asked calmly, do you know the owner of the bracelet? Ju-ji bit her lip. With her brother's willingness to string his hands to Suwon, she gained more trust in Suwon. She took out 2 sets of bracelets from her sleeves and handed them to Suwon. I have the same one, and my brother and I each have one. Little sister, I got separated from my brother, and the one in your hand belongs to my brother. Do you know where my brother is? Suwon was stunned. She was really dozing off, and someone handed her a pillow. Ju-yuki gave her the string of bracelets, feeling worried about how to find his sister. Unexpectedly, the person I saved on the road turned out to be Juyu's sister, and she came to her door in person. I know Suwon took the bracelet. The beads on the bracelet were all polished with precious gemstones. The shape was very unique. It didn't look like the aesthetics of people from the Zhou dynasty. It was full of exotic style. The 2 strings are exactly the same. One string is engraved with Juyu, and the other is engraved with Ju-ji. Judging from the names, it can be determined that they are a pair. Your name is Ju-ji? Ju-yu-ji Miaoguan in the capital, what are your plans? I want to find my brother. Jug's clean and clear eyes were filled with mist, and she cried with joy, I thought my brother was gone, but I didn't expect that he was still alive. It's so good. She knelt down on the ground and gave Suwon kowtowed, Miss, thank you for helping me find my brother. Get up quickly. Suwon helped her up. I will return to Beijing at the end of August. You can stay well with me first, and we will return to the capital together. It's not safe for you to go to Beijing alone. It's a long way. Suwon pointed at her face, if Juyu sees you in this situation, he will feel very sorry for you. Ju-ji couldn't wait to see his brother, but he knew that Suwon was right. After 10 years of waiting, she can wait for a month. Seeing her promise, Suwon put the bracelet on Ju-ji's wrist. Are you hungry? Brother Mo bought me something to eat. Ju-ji showed a flattering smile to Moun. Moun looked at her expressionlessly and said to Suwon, Mrsku, the matter has been settled. Let's take leave. Jug looked at Moun's back and whispered softly, Brother Mo, thank you. She bent down and bowed, sincerely apologizing, I'm sorry. Moun waved his hand and left without looking back. I'll find you some clothes first. You take a shower and go to bed first. We'll talk about the rest tomorrow. Suwon took out a set of unworn clothes and a bath towel for Jug, went to the kitchen to get a bucket of hot water, and took her to the bathhouse. If you need anything, just call me. Jug nodded obediently, thank you, young lady. Suwon closed the bathroom door for her, went to the kitchen to cook her a bowl of noodles, and saw Gu Huizi standing at the door of the study. Aren't you going to study today? Suwon looked back at the bathhouse and said softly, Taoist Master Juyu's sister is here. I'll keep her at home. After you pass the examination, we will take her back to Beijing with you. Gu Huizi said lightly. Yeah. Suwon looked at Gu Huizi's expression. It was dim in the night and she couldn't distinguish Gu Huizi's expression, but she felt strangely that he was unhappy. Do you still remember the time when Kinglin went to the palace to complain? The emperor was in poor health at that time. I took his pulse and found that he was poisoned. Suwon's mind changed and she had to whisper to Gu Huizi, so that he could make it clear that she and Juyu were innocent. After you took me to make a wish, I took a walk in the Taoist temple and smelled a medicinal fragrance that was exactly the same as Jingdi's. I curiously followed the medicinal smell to in front of a pharmacy. Juyu happened to come out of the house. I suspect it was him. It was impossible for Suwon to tell Gu Huizi that the reason why she was interested in Juyu's matter was because Juyu was a very strong opponent and she wanted to win her over to their camp. I'm afraid that after hearing this, Gu Huizi will think that she is a psychopath. Gu Huizi was not surprised. Juyu was driven by the regent. He raised his eyes and stared at Suwon. The cold moonlight shrouded her body, her clear eyes glowed with a soft light like water, and he whispered, I know. Suwon raised a smile and said with curved eyebrows, you should go to bed early. There are more than 10 days left for the provincial examination. You have to give me a good face. Gu Huizi laughed dumbly, I'll try my best. It's not about trying your best, it's about going all out. Suwon rolled her eyes at him and got into the kitchen to cook noodles. Jug was not in good health. Noodles are hot foods. Eating too much noodles can easily produce internal heat. Suwon specially washed a big radish. The radish is cold in nature. Boiling it together and eating it can neutralize the heat in it. 2/4 of an hour later, Suwon placed a bowl of steaming noodles on the table in the main room. Ju Ji happened to come out from the shower. His face was clean, and his delicate facial features were similar to Juyu. The contours were deeper and a little exotic. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 125. Ju Ji was reserved. Suwon stared at her, her cheeks slowly turning red. You and your brother are somewhat similar. Suwon pointed to the noodles on the table, eat before going to bed. Jug was stunned for a moment, staring at the bowl of noodles on the table. The slender noodles were soaked in the clear soup, 2 green and tender vegetables, snow-white eggs lying next to them, and a few pieces of medium-thick white-cut meat. It emits a fragrance that permeates the heart. The fragrance filled her mouth and she couldn't help but swallow her saliva. She suddenly felt hungry. Eat quickly, it won't taste good when it's cold. Suwon pulled her to the table and sat down, putting a pair of chopsticks into her hand. Jug couldn't resist the temptation of food. She took a sip of the soup and tasted the fragrance of radish, which was especially sweet, but there was no radish in the noodle bowl. Are the noodles made from carrot soup? Jug licked his lips and couldn't help but take another sip of soup. I pounded radish into juice and made noodles. Suwon poured her a bowl of water. Does it suit your appetite? It's delicious, Jug nodded. A lamp, a bowl of noodles, and a gentle sister made her feel the warmth she had not seen for a long time. She couldn't help but say, my brother and I are not from Dazhu. When I was 5 years old, at that time, we fled to the kingdom of Zhou together. Because we didn't have customs clearance documents, we were chased by soldiers, and we were separated. I was deceived and sold to a remote mountain to mine without having a full meal. Fortunately, something happened in the mine. I was able to escape during the chaos and luckily met you and found my brother. Suwon saw a section of Ju Ji's exposed arm, which was covered with scars. It didn't take much to think about what kind of life he had lived. Bitterness first, then sweetness. After all the bitterness in this life, life will be good in the future. Suwon comforted her. Ju Ji pursed her lips and smiled, Miss, you are as good as my aunt. At this point, she tilted her head and stared at Suwon's face, and suddenly exclaimed, you and my aunt look a little bit alike. Picture. Suwon did not take these words seriously. The fact that Jug came to Dazhu when she was 5 years old meant that she was separated from her relatives at that time and her memory has long been blurred. Maybe it's because I've only met one good person in so many years, so it overlaps with the memory of my aunt who was kind to her. When I was young, everyone said that I looked like my aunt. When I grew up, I was just as beautiful as my aunt. I'm not lying to you, our eyes are a bit similar. Jug pointed at his eyes stubbornly, asking Suwon to look carefully. Proving that she didn't lie. Suwon couldn't help but look into Jug's eyes, took out a small, palm-sized mirror from her sleeve, and took a look at her own eyes. I don't know if it's a psychological effect, but in comparison, it seems a bit similar. Who is your aunt? Suwon asked casually. My aunt. Jug suddenly stopped, looking lonely, and answered the question inappropriately. She is a very good person in my heart, but my mother said she is not a good person. Children's memories are mostly incomplete. But Juji's memory is very good. He started remembering things at the age of 3, but he couldn't understand most things because he was young. Now that he thinks about it when he grows up, he can understand what it means. My aunt was the child of the imperial grandmother who was living abroad. She was found the year she was born. The imperial grandmother loved my aunt especially, so my mother became jealous and opposed her aunt at every turn. Later, when she heard that the imperial grandmother was going to pass the throne to her aunt, her mother had evil thoughts and wanted to kill the imperial grandmother and seize the throne. In the end, her aunt found out, and her mother committed a capital crime. The mother gave them to her confidants, letting the brothers and sisters go far away, and when they grew up, they would come back to avenge her, take back everything that belonged to her, and prevent that bitch with impure blood from taking away what should have been hers. Jug's aunt is what her mother calls a bitch. The last memory that stayed in Ziliang was the fire in the sky at home. Her mother's confidants sent her and her brother to the border between Dazhu and Ziliang. In order for them to pass smoothly, they died under the spears of the border soldiers. Her brother told her not to listen to her mother. In her heart, she felt that her aunt was good, so she was a good person. Suwon did not ask her aunt again, "Do you remember which country you are from?" Ziliang. Suwon was shocked, 11 Liang Kingdom? Although Ziliang is a small country, it is very rich. Unlike other countries, the throne is inherited by women. Jug put down his chopsticks and finished the entire bowl of noodles. Suwon put away the dishes and chopsticks and told her, "Eat before going to bed." She took out her bedding and built a simple small bed for Juji out of wooden boards in Gu Huizi's study. Suwon packed up and went back to the room, crawled from Gu Huizi's feet to the side of the bed, leaned up and asked him, "Are my eyes similar to Jug's?" Juji is 15 years old, Juyu is 5 years older than her, and is now exactly 20 years old. Suwon is only 1 year older than Juji. Gu Huizi glanced at her, "It's a bit similar." Suwon touched her face, "I think the model is a bit similar. If she is from the Great Zhou Kingdom, I suspect that the two are related." Gu Huizi narrowed his eyes. Juji was not from the Zhou dynasty, so Juyu obviously wasn't either. But Juyu said that his hometown was in the poor Lingnan. "Don't think too much, go to bed early." Gu Huizi put away his thoughts, covered Suwon with a quilt, and put out the oil lamp. Suwon left Zai-town for a while, and a lot of things piled up. She was busy hiding MRSU with Qi Guang, and then delivered Zhao Wei's remaining 50,000 bottles of wound medicine as soon as possible, and hired someone to make red jade. "Gao, there are also some dishes to be served at Ziwixiang restaurant. I am so busy that even taking a breath is a waste of time." After everything was done, it was already the 7th day of August in a blink of an eye. Suwon specially bought mutton, pork and fish from the town the day before, and got up at the 4th watch and went into the kitchen to get busy. Chop the mutton into minced meat, mix with other fillings, and make meatloaf. The pork is cut into strips, deep fried into dried meat, and stir-fried with chili peppers and chili noodles. The spicy flavor is tangy and will make greedy people drool. Remove the fish bones from the fish, mince it into puree, fry it into fish cakes, and then steam a pot of white and plump steamed buns. None of these foods were wet and could last until Gu Huai's hometown was finished. After she finished it, she put it all into a small jar, sealed it, wrapped it in furoshiki, and carried it on the table in the main room. Gu Huizi happened to pack his things and came out. He only had a test basket and a small baggage. That's just a few things. Is there anything missing? Suwon asked, taking his baggage and checking the items. He only brought 2 sets of clothes. He was going to stay there for 9 days and 6 nights. She went to the room to take them out. Put on a piece of thick clothes, the examination room is made of hard boards. You are not in good health. When you rest, use thick clothes to make it more comfortable. You can also cover it when it gets cold at night, but don't catch a cold. Wanwan is right, you have to take good care of your body. Gu's mother was more nervous than anyone else. She would never forget the incident when Gu Huizi fainted in the examination room and almost died. She put an amulet, handed it to Gu Huizi. You have to wear it. Okay. Gu Huizi put it close to his body and picked up all the things Suwon had prepared. Don't worry, I'll be back after the exam. Gu Beizu and Gu Jingyun stepped on the stools, hung a rice dumpling high on the top of the doorframe, and grinned at Gu Huizi. Brother, you need to go to high school. Gu Huizi touched their heads and went to the entrance of the village to take a carriage to Fukan to take the exam. Gu's mother, Suwon, Gu Beizu, and Gu Jingyun were sent to the entrance of the village. Several people happened to meet Song Erlang. Song Erlang has become very gloomy since he owed a huge sum of money to the gambling house. When he saw the Gu family, his eyes fell on Gu Huizi in front. When he saw the test basket in Gu Huizi's hand, Song Erlang's eyes flashed. A strange light passed by. This time, not only will Gu Huizi be unable to take the scientific examination, but he will never come back. The author has something to say. Rubbing her little hands together excitedly, she prepared Song Erlang's lunchbox. See you tomorrow, babies. Good night. Okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 126. Song Erlang clicked his tongue. Gu Huizi, are you going to rush for the exam? He brought up the old story again and made a pun. A few years ago, you took the provincial exam and almost died in it. How can you be so good this time? Good luck. Gu's mother's face darkened and she yelled angrily, a dog can't speak human words, so just shut up. Song Erlang didn't take Gu's mother seriously, and said with a playful smile, I advise you not to bother. It won't make a difference anyway, so don't risk your life. He patted Gu Huizi's shoulder with his hand. He ridiculed, brother, there is smoke coming out of your ancestral graves and you married a golden boy. Why do you have to fight with this broken body? If I were you, I would just be raised by a woman at home. Gu Huizi pinched one of his fingers and took Song Erlang's hand off his shoulder. Song Erlang's face twitched in pain, and his fingers seemed to be pinched off. Song Erlang, you must know that trouble comes from your mouth. Gu Huizi smiled slightly at the corners of his lips and broke off Song Erlang's index finger with a click. Song Erlang covered his index finger, his face pale. Gu Huizi's eyebrows were cold and stern. Why don't you get out? Song Erlang stared at the calm Gu Huizi, his teeth almost chattered, and he wished he could crush him to ashes. But the sick man broke his fingers without even blinking, which finally made him feel frightened. Thinking of what was about to happen, a sinister look flashed in Song Erlang's eyes. He stopped entangled with Gu Huizi and left in dejection with his tail between his legs. He was afraid that Gu Huizi would go crazy and break his whole hand off, so he wouldn't be able to take part in the imperial examination. Gu Huizi brushed his shoulder with the back of his hand, took out a piece of handkerchief, wiped his fingers clean, and said to Gu's mother beside him, Mom, please stay and don't have to send me far. Song Erlang's words touched Gu's mother's mind. What happened back then left a shadow in Gu's mother's heart. Even though Suwon and Gu Huizi promised that there would be no problems this time, Gu's mother still couldn't help but worry, fearing that something might happen. An accident occurred. Gu's mother's cloudy eyes were filled with deep worry. She tried several times to ask Gu Huizi not to take the scientific examination and wait another 3 years. But Gu's mother couldn't say anything to stop Gu Hui from making progress. She wanted Suwon to be her daughter-in-law, and Gu Huizi had to be good enough. Hey, I won't send you far, so I will send you to the carriage, Gu's mother repeatedly warned. You do what you can, don't carry it. If you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell the invigilator. Okay, Gu Huizi agreed, and turned to Suwon. I'll have to trouble you to take care of my family. This is what I should do. You can take the exam with peace of mind, and I will guard the rear for you. Suwon pointed to a dark blue baggage in his hand. I will need the medicine you usually take into pills for your convenience. You take it every day. There are also medicines for typhoid fever and some medicines for nourishing the body. I put a small note on it, and you choose to take the medicine according to the instructions. A warm current surged in Gu Huizi's heart. He raised his hand to rub her head, brushed her cheek with his fingers, and said warmly, "Wait until I come back." Suwon was stunned. This was the first time Gu Huizi had touched her cheek. She felt a strange feeling in her heart, and she was still vaguely shy. She rubbed her cheek with the back of her hand and urged, "Go quickly, don't waste time." Gu Huizi left in a carriage. Mother Gu's eyes were red, praying in her heart that Gu Huizi would come back safely this time. Suwon knew Gu Huizi's physical condition very well and was not worried at all. And there was also a kind of mysterious self-confidence, and he never thought that Gu Huizi would fail the exam. Don't waste time, you two, and go to the academy to study as soon as possible. Suwon took off the 2 cloth bags from her shoulders, carried them on the shoulders of her brother and sister, and took out 4 pennies, 2 pennies for each person. There are eggs and fish cakes in the bag. The 2 little guys said crisply, "Sister-in-law, we understand. Climb into the bullock cart waiting at the entrance of the village and go to Zai Academy." Suwon took Gu's mother's arm and dispelled her worries. "Mr. Zhou received an order from Guangling Mansion. The order is a bit large. I just plan to go to the city in person to deliver a batch of goods first and then inspect it. We are going to open a workshop in Fukan. Huizi will enter the examination room tomorrow afternoon, and I will come back together after he finishes the examination." Sure enough, Gu's mother felt relieved after hearing Suwon's words. "Wan, please pay more attention to Gu Huizi," Gu's mother said sadly. "This year's Mid-Autumn Festival, the family cannot be reunited." Suwon felt a little emotional. This was her first festival. Suddenly, her footsteps stopped, and she saw Chi-Wu's figure flashing past, and said to Gu's mother, "You go home first, I will pick some green onions in the field, and I will cook a bowl of green onion noodles for Juji later." Gu's mother muttered, "This girl eats noodles every meal, and she can't get tired of it. I'll talk to her when I get back and tell her to eat some meat, otherwise how can she grow taller? She's as thin as a bamboo pole. When the wind blows, she can be killed. Scrape away." While talking, Gu's mother went to Gu's house angrily. Suwon walked towards Chi-Wu, who was hiding in an abandoned thatched house. "Miss, everything you told us has been done." "Boss, please don't worry." Chi-Wu pulled Suwon and squatted in the corner, as if he were a thief, and said in a low voice, whose injury after being raised, she said she didn't want to drag us down and wanted to leave Qingfeng Mountain. "The boss asked me to ask you whether we should send Hu out of the mountain. Ms. Hu can't go back to her parents' home. Where can she go when she's alone? Tell her that she doesn't want to live and eat for free and work like everyone else." Suwon thought for a moment and muttered, "Waiting for the Song family. Once the matter is settled, she can stay or go as she pleases." Okay, Chi-Wu got the right words and knew what to do. How are you doing now? Suwon saw that Chi Wu had changed into a new pair of coarse cloth clothes and was still wearing straw sandals on his feet. The money given to you is enough for you to live a prosperous life for 4 to 5 years. You don't have to save for me. If you eat well and wear warm clothes, you will be more efficient. Chi Wu blushed and touched his hot ears. Boss has built a new house for us all. It won't leak either from wind or rain. Everyone was given 3 sets of clothes. He followed Suwon's instructions. His eyes fell on the straw sandals on his feet, and he said squeakingly, "We are used to wearing straw sandals, it is convenient." The boss said that when the weather gets cold, we will change into cloth shoes for everyone. You have a message for Chi Guang, immediately change into cloth shoes and wear deerskin boots in cold weather. Suwon did not give Chi Wu any room for negotiation. If you work with me, you can't be wronged. Don't worry, I will improve my income. The power of money means that you can't keep up with the speed at which I make money. Chi Wu nodded vigorously. Following the eldest lady was the greatest luck in their lives. You pick 2 people and come with me to Fukan in 2 days. Chi-san and I will go with you. Good. Song Erlang arrived at Zai Town and got into a carriage waiting on the roadside. Brother Li, is Gu Huizi's test basket the one I gave you? The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 127. Erlang, are you still worried about me doing things? I handed the test basket you gave me to the hawker and saw Gu Huizi buy it with my own eyes. Li Kuan Yu played with the fan in his hand and glanced at Song Erlang's red and swollen index finger. Hey, this is how did you do it? Song Erlang gritted his teeth and said, Gu Huizi did it? He felt angry in his heart and just waited for Gu Huizi to enter the examination room and be killed by the invigilator. For the test basket in Gu Huizi's hand, he wrote cheat sheets on bamboo pieces, woven it into a test basket by himself, and then asked Li Kuan Yu to find a way to get it bought back by Gu Huizi. When the time comes for the Gongyuan examination, if Li Kuan Yu reports someone engaging in malpractice for personal gain, he will definitely be able to find out Gu Huizi. Those who practice favoritism and malpractice may be punished with the rod or exiled for 3,000 miles. In severe cases, beheading. But either way is a dead end. According to the regulations, he was exiled for at least 8 or 9 years. Gu Huizi was physically weak, so how could he endure the bitter cold? It's equivalent to a death penalty. How can you survive it and come back alive? Why are you angry? No matter how proud Gu Huizi is, he will not survive until the end of the provincial examination. Li Kuan Yu brought a baggage and stuffed it into Song Erlang's arms. I can't help you with the scientific examination. I will give you a piece of advice from the master. The number 1 scholar's clothes is outstanding, and there is also a bag of silver. Song Erlang's eyes flashed, knowing that Li Kuan Yu wanted to curry favor with him. In the future, his being an official would be of great benefit to Li Kuan Yu. I won't be polite to Brother Li. When Gu Huizi went to Fukan, Moun and Mo Chen accompanied him. They lived in a small house in Fukan and went to Gongyuan early on the 8th day of the lunar month. Most of the other candidates took the road from Xiangchun Gate, past Gaosheng Gate, Zidong Garden, past Wengxing Stone Bridge, and Yuyi Village to the Gongyuan Gate, trying to create a good meaning. Gu Huizi took the small road because it was blocked. When he arrived, there were still many people coming and a long queue formed at the door. The gate of Gongyuan faces south. The courtyard is very wide and has only one gate. Coincidentally, Song Erlang was lined up in front of Gu Hui, separated by a few people. Song Erlang looked back at Gu Huizi, his eyes lightly swept over the test basket in his hand. He sneered in his heart, and folded his clothes. The piece of clothing he is wearing is exactly the one given to him by Li Kuan Yu. He was extremely generous and gave him 100 taels of silver as payment. He had already made a decision in his heart. When he became an official in the future, he would slip a little and promote Li Kuan Yu. Before entering the Gongyuan Gate, Song Erlang had a sweet dream. Gu Huizi didn't take Song Erlang seriously and only regarded him as a clown for entertainment. After waiting for almost an hour, it was Gu Huizi's turn. He put the things on the large table, opened his arms, and asked the soldiers to check whether he had any cheat sheets. The meat cakes were all cut into small pieces, and the spicy meat aroma spread thickly, making everyone salivate. Gu Huizi lowered his eyes and packed up, took his number, and entered the Gongyuan. The east side of the archway inside the gate is acquisition of scholars for the Ming dynasty, and the west side is seeking talents for the country. Walking past the main hall, mission room, and sedan hall, there are exam sheds that are densely packed like a honeycomb, with a total of 8 or 9,000 rooms. They are divided into east and west writing rooms, each with 57 rows of exam sheds. The examination booths are arranged according to the 1,000-character script, and Gu Huizi is the king-shaped one in the 34th row of the Dongmen field. Gu Huizi found his examination shed. The roof of the shed was covered with bark. If it rains, use an umbrella indoors. There was only one seat and one table in the shed, which was extremely cramped and crude. He put everything in the corner, took out the chicken he was carrying and put it on the table. The Wugeng chicken is a small stove made of bamboo and wood with an outer cover and an oil lamp placed in the middle. It is used for night lighting, cooking, and water boiling. After the second visit to the tribute courtyard, Gu Huizi was very relaxed. He took out the fish cake made by Su Wan and ate one. Then he put down the wooden board, covered it with thick cotton clothes, and lay down on it to sleep and recharge his batteries. Gu Huizi closed his eyes, but he was not sleepy at all. 8 or 9,000 people from each county in a city applied for the examination. In the last session, 40 candidates were selected, but this time only 30 candidates were selected. While waiting in line, he saw many familiar faces, most of whom were talented and knowledgeable people. As soon as midnight arrives, firecrackers are set off in the Gongyuan, the doors begin to be closed, and the papers are released. Gu Huizi picked up the test paper and looked at it. The first test was on 8-legged essay. He thought for a moment and then wrote his answer. The invigilator was patrolling with a lantern. Most of the candidates were in high spirits. Some were still thinking about how to solve the problem, and some paused and thought while writing. Only Gu Huizi was writing fluently and writing vigorously. Within a moment, Gu Huizi put down his pen and placed the examination papers on the upper left side of the table, waiting for the official to collect them. The invigilator couldn't help but stop. It was only half an hour before the paper was released, and he had already finished answering. As soon as he raised his hand, the soldiers behind him stopped. The invigilator stood in front of Gu Huizi, picked up the examination paper and read his article. The invigilator was not looking forward to Gu Huizi's article. After reading a few lines, he couldn't help but look solemn. He slowed down his reading speed. After reading it word by word, he couldn't help but feel amazing and amazing. "Where are you from?" The invigilator put the test paper in its original position. Gu Huizi maintained this level in the next 2 games, and he was sure to win the provincial examination. Gu Huizi, Zitown. The invigilator nodded slightly, remembered Gu Huizi, and was about to leave. At this time, a soldier suddenly walked over quickly. "Sir, we have received reports that there are candidates who have cheated on the exam for personal gain." The invigilator's expression changed. It was a serious matter. He said solemnly, "Can you tell me which candidate it is? If no one reports it, when the high school ranking list is posted and the matter comes out, his reputation will be lost." The invigilator was filled with anger and said loudly, "If you find out who it is, you will be severely punished." The candidates in this row were all shocked when they heard that someone was cheating on them with cheat sheets and cheating for personal gain. They couldn't calm down to do the questions at all, for fear of other variables. Gu Huizi took it calmly, closed his eyes and prepared to sleep. The soldier's voice was loud, the examinee is from Guhuizi, Xinghua Village, Zitown. My subordinates have found out that he is in the 34th row of the king-shaped examination booth. When the other trembling candidates heard this, their eyes were filled with shock. Guhuizi's title of child prodigy was famous far and wide. Looking at the entire Guangling mansion, who doesn't know about it? But I never expected that he would actually cheat. The invigilator was startled and looked at Guhuizi with a heavy gaze. Thinking of the article he just read, he frowned. Was such a wonderful article written by cheating? He didn't want to believe that it was Guhuizi who cheated, but looking at the entire Gongyuan, he could only write well and quickly. Search, the invigilator said with a straight face and an impartial face, those who engage in malpractice for personal gain, once found out, will be expelled from their jobs, banned from taking exams for life, and given a 50-50 cane and an exile of 3,000 miles. The soldier walked to Guhuizi's examination booth and began to search the things he had brought. He checked them all carefully and found no cheat sheets. Several people looked at each other. Could it be that someone deliberately made a false accusation? Didn't find it, the invigilator came over, glanced at it, and landed on the examination basket. He picked up the examination basket and handed it to the soldier beside him. Tear it down. The author has something to say. I made a mistake, I haven't written the plot that Ruan Bayo wanted. Oh baby, good night, see you tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 128. With such a big movement, all the other candidates were on tenterhooks and listened to the developments here. Song Erlang was also in row 34. He had queued in front of Guhuizi before, so he was only a few seats away from Guhuizi and could hear the movement clearly, although he couldn't see Guhuizi's expression, which was quite regretful. He was still uncontrollably excited. A head quietly popped up and he saw the invigilator handing the exam basket to the soldier. Song Erlang's excited heart was beating fast. He was waiting for the soldier to find Guhuizi's cheat sheet on the bamboo stick, and then he took out the stick and punished him. Exile, it would be better if you could behead someone and confiscate your home. The invigilator glanced over, and Song Erlang quickly retracted his head. Guhuizi leaned against the wall, closed his eyes and meditated. The light diffused on his brow bones, casting a shallow shadow, as if he was aloof from the incident and had nothing to do with him. This calmness made the invigilator tighten his jaw and wave his sleeves. It's about to be removed. The soldier directly took out a long knife and split the examination basket in half. The bamboo-woven examination basket instantly became loose. Several soldiers from behind came over carrying several lanterns to shine. They inspected the bamboo strips carefully and did not miss anyone. It was already 3/4 of an hour later, almost half an hour later, when they had finished checking them all. Sir, no, the soldier neatly arranged all the bamboo strips and tied them with a piece of cloth. He glanced at the calm Guhuizi with complicated eyes, leaned into the invigilator's ear, and whispered, Sir, if he is so calm, maybe he really didn't do anything cheating. Otherwise, he would have a guilty conscience. Just the fact that he brought this breaking news would have already messed up his mind. How could I be so indifferent that I could remain unmoved regardless of the wind blowing from east to west? Another soldier from Guangling Prefecture also whispered, Sir, maybe there is a misunderstanding? Guhuizi is the child prodigy of our Guangling Prefecture. He won a criminal case in his early 10 years and became famous throughout Guangling Prefecture. Later, when he took the provincial examination, failed to make it to the third game. The examiner has seen his answer sheets from the first 2 games. If he maintains the same level in the third game, he will definitely win. The invigilator fell into deep thought. Is this article written by Guhuizi's true talent and learning? Where is the person who reported the report? The invigilator looked solemnly. Is he in the concierge? You will interrogate him carefully and check his interpersonal relationships. Yes, the soldier immediately went down to question him. Song Erlang was confused, right? How could it not be? He clearly recognized the test basket, it was exactly the same as the marks he had left behind when weaving it. What went wrong? Li Kuan Yu also said that he saw Gu Huizi buy it with his own eyes. Song Erlang's face was ashen and gloomy, and he suspected that Li Kuan Yu was playing tricks on him. If you are playing tricks on him, why bother buying him clothes and giving him money? Suddenly a bold idea came to mind. Song Erlang suspected that Gu Huizi had seen through his little trick, so he specially changed the test basket, and was afraid that he would notice the clues, so he made the marks exactly the same to fool him, lest he continue to do evil. Yes. That must be it. Song Erlang looked at his red and swollen index finger. It was extremely inconvenient to answer the paper, and he felt extremely unwilling to do so. He wanted to knock over the oil lamp on the table, set fire to the examination booth, and burn Gu Huizi to death here to express his hatred. The candidates in this row heard that Gu Huizi was falsely accused and no cheat sheet was found out about his cheating. The proctor sent people to examine the people who reported him, and they were all on tenterhooks, fearing that this would burn their heads. The invigilator picked up Gu Huizi's family certificate. On it was a personal resume, including 3 generations, hometown, age, appearance, etc. Someone specifically reported you. Even though you are upright, aren't you afraid that villains will frame you? The invigilator was very curious about Gu Huizi. He had presided over many provincial examinations. Gu Huizi was the calmest person he had ever seen. He seemed not to care about the provincial examinations. If you really don't care about fame and wealth, why should you take the provincial examination? Could it be that it's a habit of talented people to be arrogant and arrogant? Gu Huizi slowly opened his eyes, glanced at the bamboo sticks tied into a bundle, and said lazily, "Students believe in the severity of adults. Someone framed me, so I won't be able to sit here and take the scientific examination today." The invigilator choked, not knowing whether Gu Huizi was ridiculing him or flattering him. "Forget it, just take it as flattery." He asked again, "Aren't you curious who reported you?" "He will be punished for false accusations." "We will know when the time comes." Gu Huizi raised his eyebrows and smiled slightly. "I asked, but you don't know now." "Invigilator." The other candidates gasped. Aren't prodigies always so open-minded in their talk? Aren't they afraid of offending others? At this time, the soldier came back and said, "Sir, the person who reported the report is a person from Guankei Academy in Zai Town, named Fang Yushan. That person was recruited. He was entrusted by a friend to falsely accuse Gu Huizi, thinking that we would ignore everything. Directly disqualify Gu Huizi from the scientific examination." He glanced at Gu Huizi again and said in a low voice, "His friend is Song Su, who is from the same village as Gu Huizi. The two families have a deep feud, and he is participating in this. A provincial examination, in the size of 34 rows. The invigilator's face darkened, and he walked towards the square. Gu Huizi looked at the backs of the invigilator and the accompanying soldiers, twitching the corners of his mouth slightly with a hint of sarcasm. When Song Erlang heard the soldier's words, he was like thunder. His face turned pale, and he subconsciously looked at the test basket next to him, and he had the same illusion as the test basket he gave Gu Huizi. "No, I cannot. The test basket will not be with him." Song Erlang heard the footsteps getting closer and subconsciously wanted to cover the test basket. The soldiers had already come to search. He stood frozen on the spot, staring blankly as the soldiers turned his things around in a mess. "Sir, Fang Yushan and I are not good friends. He is not a good person. He is jealous that I am more knowledgeable than him. He tricked me into going to a gambling house and wanted to ruin my future. This time, he deliberately harmed me. Please be aware of it." Song Erlang tried his best to distance himself from the relationship and grabbed the soldier's hand who wanted to take the test basket with excitement. The soldier shook off his hand. "If you are innocent, there is no need to be afraid. Your Excellency will not let any candidate suffer injustice." Song Erlang couldn't stand firm, fell back, and knocked over the oil lamp with his hand. He hurriedly went to hold the oil lamp, and when he saw that there was no fire, he breathed a sigh of relief. When he saw the soldier taking away the examination basket, his breath suddenly stuck in his throat, and cold sweat broke out on his nervous back. "It's my first time to experience this kind of thing, so I can't help but feel nervous." Song Erlang forced out an unnatural smile. "Student, I believe that adults will restore my innocence." "Hey, what is this?" The soldier's eyes, which were placed on the examination basket, fell on Song Erlang's sleeves. He grabbed a piece of Song Erlang's sleeve, and the moon-white sleeve was burned black by the oil lamp. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the black color was not the burnt material, but the densely packed cheat sheets. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 129. Song Erlang's face turned pale, his head went blank, and he suddenly pulled back his sleeves. He stared at the densely packed cheat sheet in disbelief, and rubbed hard. Instead of being rubbed away, it became more and more obvious. Gu Huizi didn't cheat, but he was caught cheating. Song Erlang almost collapsed. He struggled to tear the clothes on his body, took them off and threw them towards the oil lamp, trying to burn the evidence. "It's not me. These are not my clothes. I didn't cheat. This clothes was given to me by Li Kuan Yu. He specially took it to the temple to consecrate it and wish me well in high school." He was so anxious that he was incoherent, frightened. He looked at the invigilator with pleading eyes, hoping that he would believe his words. "If you don't believe it, you can send people to arrest Li Kuan Yu and torture him." The invigilator quickly pulled the clothes that had been burned on the oil lamp to the ground and stamped out the ignited flames. A hole was burned into the clothes, and a large piece of cheat sheet appeared in the surrounding area that was exposed to the fire. With a thought, he put his clothes on the fire to bake. When the moon-white clothes were roasted by the fire, a dense sheet of cheat sheets appeared. The soldier was stunned. He didn't expect such an awesome operation. The invigilator used a fire to bake all the clothes. There was no blank space, only cheat sheets. The more Song Erlang looked at it, the colder his heart became. It was as if a piece of ice had been stuffed into his heart, and his blood almost solidified. He did not expect that Li Kuan Yu would switch sides, side with Gu Huizi, and join forces with Gu Huizi to frame him. "Sir, it's not me. I really didn't. It wasn't me who framed me with Li Kuan Yu and Gu Huizi. Even if I had 10 more courages, I wouldn't have dared to do it. My master said that with my talents, I would definitely do it this time. Passed the imperial examination. How could I ruin my future?" Song Erlang was on the verge of collapse. He was the Song family's only hope. In order for him to pass the imperial examination smoothly, his mother asked the princess for help to get Song Dalan out of prison. He could not stay. Case record. The crown princess didn't agree at first, but later her mother risked a breakup and used the crown princess's instructions to persecute Suwon to threaten her, so the crown princess was willing to help. The princess was probably unhappy with being threatened, so she let Song Dalan die in prison the night before the trial. He only attempted to harm someone and was not involved in a murder case, so Song Dalan's criminal record was easily wiped out. Mother did not dare to offend the crown princess, so she blamed Suwon for Song Dalan's death. The opportunity I finally got was completely ruined. Song Erlang was shaking like chaff, dripping with cold sweat, and wanted to continue begging for mercy, but the invigilator's words hit him hard on the head. Song Su engaged in malpractice for favoritism and was expelled from his reputation as a scholar and banned from taking exams for life. Because of personal grudges, he and others falsely accused candidates of engaging in malpractice for favoritism and disrupting the order of the provincial examination. The circumstances are serious and should be severely punished to serve as a warning to others. The invigilator didn't believe Song Erlang's lies. His friend falsely accused Gu Huizi and found the cheat sheet in Song Erlang's place. Especially with such a clever method, he didn't believe that he was innocent. When he thought that Song Erlang and Gu Huizi were from the same village, the two families had a deep feud. He almost destroyed a pillar of talent because of his own selfishness. The invigilator said angrily, "Come here, drag Song Su down, beat him with 50 sticks, confiscate his home and exile him to the frontier." Song Erlang turned pale and defended himself in a hoarse voice, my lord, the student was wronged. Someone framed the student. Please be aware of it, dash. The soldier covered Song Erlang's mouth and dragged him down. Then there was the sound of hitting the board. The sound was like a knock on the heart of the examines. They were all silent and broke into a cold sweat. Song Erlang shot himself in the foot and suffered the consequences. He didn't join his friends to slander Gu Huizi for cheating, so how could he be found out? Retribution. The invigilator has a Chinese character face, is serious in speech and very dignified. He stared at the writing on the clothes and couldn't figure out what method Song Erlang used to make the writing visible when exposed to fire. To be cautious, every candidate will be carefully checked. The invigilator paused and ordered, "Go and bake Gu Huizi's clothes." Yes, the soldier went to Gu Huizi's place again. The invigilator thought for a moment and followed suit. The soldiers roasted all Gu Huizi's clothes, but no cheat sheets appeared. For some reason, the invigilator breathed a sigh of relief and said to comfort him, "You can take the exam with peace of mind. If you are ruled out of suspicion, it will not affect your imperial examination." Gu Huizi stood up and bowed in a flowing manner. The invigilator walked a few steps, then turned back and asked, "Do you know how to use this method so that the handwriting will be visible only when it is exposed to fire?" He thought that Gu Huizi had already finished the exam, so he handed over a question that had nothing to do with the exam question. He handed it to Gu Huizi for a look. "I only know that turmeric turns red when it encounters alkaline water." Of course Gu Huizi knew that this was done by him. The words written in salt water will be colorless after drying, but will turn black after being roasted by fire. "I don't know," Gu Huizi said with impatience on his face. "The student is weak and weak. If you finish the search, the student will rest." Invigilator. A person like you who is ignorant of the world and doesn't know how to flatter others has no future in the officialdom. He snorted coldly, thinking that Gu Huizi was lucky to meet a good official like him who valued his talents, so he didn't have the same experience as him. The invigilator left in a grand manner with his people, wrote a memorial about the matter, and reported it to the court. Suwan didn't know what happened in Guangling Mansion. She was going to Guangling Mansion tomorrow. Taking advantage of the nice weather, she took off all the bedding and quilt covers, washed them, and put a new one on them. Bang dong. Suwan shook out a palm-sized glass jar from the pillowcase. The mouth of the jar was sealed with wood and there were 4 notes inside. When the sun shines, the colors flow like clouds, which is extremely beautiful. Curious, she pulled out the wooden cover and poured out all the notes. There were 3 blank notes, one of which had Gu Huizi's handwriting. The general idea is that this glass jar is a birthday gift given to her. Each note represents a wish, and he can fulfill her 3 wishes. Suwan was startled. She didn't expect Gu Huizi to do such a childish thing. But, she actually felt a kind of joy surge in her heart. Suwan even had the urge to go to Fukan immediately. Thinking about it this way, Suwan actually did it. She put the note back into the jar and hid it under the bed. She packed a bag and was about to go out, when she met Gu's mother. Gu's mother couldn't suppress the joy in her eyes, and she took Suwan's hand. Wan, what a blessing. Song Erlang was caught cheating in the imperial examination and was sentenced to confiscation and exile. Early this morning, soldiers came to search. The Song family has removed Song Manfu from the position of village head. The clan leader has removed the Song family from the family tree and expelled the whole family from Xinghua village. It's really satisfying. Evil will be punished. Suwan raised the corner of her mouth and told Gu's mother, I'm going to Fukan today, Jug, please take care of me. Mother Gu's smile faded and she said with concern, I will take good care of her. Please pay attention to safety and take care of yourself on the road. Suwan nodded, don't worry, I will take care of myself. After getting on the carriage, when Suwan passed by the entrance of the village, she saw Zhang from a distance crying and behaving violently at the gate of the clan leader, refusing to leave. The Song family has fallen into this fate because of their own fault and does not deserve any sympathy. The carriage drove away from the village entrance, and Suwan was about to lower the curtain when she saw the young people in the village dragging Zhang and Song Manfu to the village entrance. The Song family is finally settled, and the Hu family will be free from now on. Qi San and Qi Wu were waiting at the foot of Qingfen Mountain. When Suwan's carriage arrived, the two brothers sat on the shaft and escorted Suwan to Fukan with a batch of goods. The group arrived at Fukan. Suwan got off the carriage and was searched by soldiers before entering the city gate. Ms. Gu, Zhao Da's rough voice sounded. Suwan looked back and saw Zhao Da and Zhao Wei coming on horseback. What a coincidence. Are you coming to Fukan for business? Zhao Da and Zhao Wei came to Fukan firstly because of cheating in the imperial examination, and secondly because they found signs of Qi Jiajin's activities in Fukan. Naturally, they would not tell the truth when facing Suwan. Something happened in the imperial examination. General Zhao came here to take a look. Zhao Da smiled honestly, his eyes fell on the two people behind Suwan inadvertently, and his big copper bell eyes suddenly stern. The author has something to say. Babies, this is a big fat seal, good night, see you tomorrow, okay. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 130. Qi Jiajin, Zhao Da revealed the identities of the two people. Qi San and Qi Wu immediately looked around, watching the pedestrians coming and going. Where is the Qi family army? Qi San looked confused. Does the Qi family army still exist? Qi Wu was in disbelief, and then he looked excited and said without a blush in his face, brother, where is the Qi family army? I have admired General Qi since I was a child. I never expected that I would be so lucky. Pay tribute to Qi Jiajin. Suwan. Zhao Wei. Zhao Da. Is he really blind? How could Qi Jiajin be such a fool? Qi San noticed that the atmosphere was subtle, and continued with Qi Wu's words, our brother's original ambition was to join the Qi family army, but unfortunately we were born a few years late. By the time we could join the army, General Qi had already passed away, and the Qi family army disappeared, so we had to hang out in the escort agency. Eat well. Qi Wu grimaced, looking quite regretful. Zhao Wei invited, you can come to Zhao Jiajin. The two brothers were shocked and shook their heads, no, no. That's not Qi. Zhao Da was unhappy, what's wrong with the Zhao Jiajin? How many people couldn't get in despite the crowds? The Qi Jiajin is so arrogant. The current momentum of the Zhao Jiajin is even greater than that of the Qi Jiajin. Zhao Wei glanced at him and Zhao Da got stuck. He opened the shell and pinched a tiny nail on his little finger with his thumb, it's just 1,000 miles away. Qi San and Qi Wu were frightened for a moment, you are such a bad guy, wouldn't it be a mistake to recruit our brothers? Zhao Da stared, wishing he could smash the two people's heads. He was giving Suwan face. Suwan had no intention of hiding Qi Jiajin, so she dared to take them with her. Since Chi-san and Chi-woo refused to expose their identities, she respected them. Okay, go get the goods quickly, Suwon said to Zhao Wei. I have something else to do, so I'll take the first step. Zhao Wei nodded. Let's go together. Chi-san and Chi-woo are driving. Zhao De frowned and stared at the two brothers, as if he wanted to spy on them both inside and out. The two men were wearing ordinary coarse cloth clothes and a pair of straw sandals on their feet. When they bent down, they revealed a knife hidden in their backs. He turned his head to look at Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei's eyes fell on the knife and he gave Zhao De a wink. Brother, let me help you. Zhao De went over to buy goods together, chatted with Chi-san and Chi-woo, and found out which escort agency they were in, and the group entered the city. Zhao Wei glanced at Suwon's combed hair and whispered, let's go to the Gongyuan first. If there is a chance, we can invite Madame Gu to have dinner with us. Okay, Suwon knew it was a polite statement. Zhao Wei took Zhao De away for a distance. Zhao De analyzed, General, these two people may not be Chijiajin. Chijiajin is good at using spears, bolas, swords and other weapons. Among the 18 weapons, he is not good at using knives. Suwon was very important to the Chi family army. When he escorted Suwon to the capital, he would most likely encounter bandits. Even if the Chi family army was 1 against 10, if they didn't have the weapons at their disposal, they would be at the mercy of the enemy. Zhao Wei only recognized Chi Guang, but not the others. Arrange someone to keep an eye on Suwon. Whether or not Chi Jiajin is in Suwon's hands will be revealed sooner or later. Yes, Zhao De said thoughtfully, I will send someone to the escort agency later to check whether these two people are there. As soon as Zhao Wei and Zhao De left, Chi-san and Chi-woo breathed a sigh of relief. I was scared to death. I almost got exposed. It's no secret that Chi Jiajin is not good at using swords, but over the years, Chi Guang has been strictly asking them to practice swordsmanship, and they have become very good at it. They needed to have an identity to get close to Suwon, so after living a prosperous life, they were still in the escort agency and were not afraid of Zhao Dacha. What are you afraid of? Chi Jiajin can't see the light. You follow me, if anything happens, I will stand in front to support you, Suwon said solemnly. You are the people left to me by my grandfather. You are very outstanding. Capital that makes people proud is not something they are ashamed to speak about. Chi-san and Chi-woo felt ashamed and said, we have special status now. It's best not to show up, so as not to bring trouble to you. If I were worried that you were a trouble, I would never have kept you from the beginning. Suwon had a plan in mind. The regent seemed to be on her side. Even if he was not a friendly force, at least he would not harm her. Perhaps there was some hidden reason why she was asked to marry Gu Huizi in the first place. She would be able to cure the poison in the emperor's hands. To the extent that she could, not only would she have a blank imperial edict to protect them, but she could also exchange lives with the emperor. What's more, Zhao Wei owes her 3 conditions. Suwon held several trump cards in her hand. As long as the emperor didn't want to destroy the Chi family's army, she could protect them under her wings. In her hands, Chi Jiajin can also frighten some monsters, ghosts, and snakes. When touching her, she has to be careful. You are heroes who stand upright and deserve to stand in the sun. Suwon's words were shocking. Chi-san and Chi-woo were shocked in their hearts. The last trace of their worries was loosened and they were defeated. Let's go to the hospital to deliver the goods. We will visit later and find a suitable house to open a workshop. Suwon thought in her mind that since she was not in Fukan often, she would have to hire a reliable shopkeeper here. Chi-san saw Suwon's face full of sadness. Miss, if you have anything to do, just tell us. Although we don't have much ability, we have a lot of ideas. Suwon told the two people his idea and sighed. People who can be trusted either cannot bear the responsibility of being a steward, or they just don't like the job of stewardship. Chi San's eyes lit up and he immediately recommended a candidate. Miss, we do have such a candidate in Qingfeng Mountain. Her family is in business and she is a good hand in business. Later, her family fell into decline and she was rescued by us by chance. She has been living in Qingfeng Mountain and taking care of our accounts. Everyone calls her the Iron Lady. Chi Wu nodded in agreement. If it weren't for the Iron Lady, they wouldn't have saved enough for Su Wan's dowry. Okay, I'll go see her then. Su Wan finally solved a major issue. Go through an alley ahead and you'll reach Guangrantang. Chi San turned the carriage and prepared to take a shortcut to the medical center. Help, help dash. As soon as he entered the alley, he heard a woman's cry for help. Su Wan looked stern. Chi San had jumped off the carriage and jumped into the alley. 4 men in black surrounded the 2 guards from front to back. The long swords scratched their necks and the guards fell to the ground. Chi San noticed that something was wrong with the fallen guard. He seemed to have been drugged and had his neck cut like a leek. Chi San looked at the 5 or 6 guards lying on the ground in a mess, and then watched the man in black pick up the unconscious woman and throw her into the carriage. Chi San drew his sword and stepped forward. The man in black's face darkened, and several people surrounded Chi San. On the other side, Zhao Wei and Zhao Da happened to be nearby. When they heard the movement, they turned around and saw Chi San, who claimed to be the bodyguard, wielding the Chi family's sword skills with great force.